Like, holy shit, people are buying this game.
Yeah. It was weird.
Hotline Miami was created by two guys, Dennis Wedden and Jonathan Cactus Soderstrom. Cactus had been making games since 2004, and he had carved out a name for himself online for his weird, experimental, and often trippy indie games. Using his popularity that he had gained from the games he had made over the years, he made his own blog, which is still accessible from this link on screen. On his profile, he describes himself and also a little bit about his design motivations. He says, "I'm a game developer living in Gothenburg, Sweden. I've been making small freeware games since 2004. My main aim is to create interesting things, whether it be through visuals or gameplay mechanics. A lot of the games on my site are just small experiments dressed up as games. I'm glad that people still seem to enjoy them." Over the years, he'd post various updates about himself and the projects that he was working on. You can see some examples on screen now. They all follow his design philosophy and are definitely eye-catching. Unfortunately though, the blog is no longer updated, with the last update being on the 4th of June 2014, almost 11 years ago. Flash is no longer supported either, so a lot of the elements that would be used on these older websites are no longer visible. But still, it's like a time capsule of early indie game dev culture. Dennis Wedden wasn't a game dev at first. He was a visual artist, a musician, and also a member of the Swedish band Fucking Werewolf Asshole. Cactus's brother introduced the pair, and after seeing Cactus's work, he asked if he wanted to collaborate on an interactive project to help promote his band. The idea that they came up with was a hybrid platformer / music video game called Keyboard Drum Set Fucking Werewolf. Yeah, it's a mad name, I know. They split the workload pretty cleanly. Cactus handled the gameplay and the coding, and Wedden did the music and the visuals. The project was a success, and it gained a lot of traction on major YouTube channels at the time, like PewDiePie and Jacksepticeye. And at the time of writing, those two videos have over 2 million views combined. After that, the pair decided to make another game called Life Death Island. A trailer was released in 2012 on YouTube, but unfortunately it never released. The truth is that they weren't satisfied with the game and instead decided to pivot to a new project. The only problem was, they had no idea where to start. Now that they were making their first commercial game, this is when things started to take shape, and the two of them officially formed Dennaton Games. Wedden encouraged Cactus to dig through some of his older, unfinished prototypes from the past. They went through a bunch of them, but one in particular stood out. It was a top-down shooter called Super Carnage. In it, you start each level with nothing and had to scavenge for weapons and clothes, whilst clearing rooms filled with enemies to gain points. You probably realised it by now, but that project established the core gameplay loop that became the foundation for Hotline Miami. Initially, the game was envisioned as a 3-week project, but instead it grew into an 8-month project. From there, the pair expanded the mechanics from Super Carnage. They leaned into the idea of instant restarts, brutal difficulty, and rewarding the player for speed, precision, and improvisation. The levels became more compact and focused, and the weapons more refined. The game was developed in Game Maker 7, which at the time was pretty outdated. That led to a bunch of problems. especially when it came to stability. But Cactus stuck with it because that was the tool that he knew best. He said in interviews that he spent about 9 months working on the game, doing 12-hour days, 6 days a week. It was an intense grind, and at one point, Wedden even ended up in the hospital.
I was super depressed during the first game because of my breakup, which was really rough on me. So a lot of that is in the game, like the whole situation with Jacket and the girl.
That goes to show you the amount of dedication that they both had for this game. Afterwards, they both posted a demo of the game on some forums to get some feedback. This was when Vlamber, another game development studio, said that they should talk to Devolver Games to try and see if they could get their game published. Before development, Cactus and Wedden had just watched a 2005 documentary called Cocaine Cowboys. It dives into how Colombian cocaine flooded Miami during the late 70s and 80s. It was transforming the city into a violent, drug-fueled underworld. Drug money was fueling construction, banks were laundering dirty cash, and people were losing their lives daily. It was chaotic, corrupt, dangerous, and also weirdly glamorised. Now that set the location for the game, but what about the tone? They couldn't make this game filled with mental violence without an equally interesting style to frame it. Their two main inspirations ended up being Miami Vice and Drive. Visually, both influences share a love of heightened reality, worlds where the city feels alive with dangerous kind of energy. You never know what's behind each corner, and Hotline Miami takes that same energy and manages to distill it into the gameplay itself, and that's why it's so good. Alright, here's the short version, Hotline Miami's story from start to finish. You play as an unnamed hitman, often referred by the fans as Jacket. The game opens up with you getting cryptic messages in your answering machine. On the surface, they sound like mundane requests, things like organised dates, cleaning things, and babysitter requests, but they're actually coded instructions for assassination jobs. Whoever's behind them never really speaks directly, they just leave behind these weird kinda messages with fake names. From there, the game splits into different levels, each one starting the same way. You slip on an animal mask of your choice, grab whatever weapons you can, and make your way through these buildings filled with gangsters. Along the way, you meet 3 mysterious figures: Rasmus the Owl, Don Juan the Horse, and Richard the Rooster. They don't exactly explain who they are, but instead they talk in kind of riddles and weird questions, sometimes mocking you, sometimes hinting at things that you just don't understand yet. During one of the early missions, you rescue a woman from a building. She's heavily implied to have suffered for some sort of trafficking, with all the syringes and drugs laying around her. After this, she starts living with you, and things seem to kind of settle into a routine. You do these missions, you clear out the entire place, you return home, but the tension just keeps building. Eventually, you cross paths with another masked killer known as Biker. The two you clash at a place called Phone Hum, a location connected somehow to the people giving you orders. The fight ends with Jacket knocking Biker out with a golf club and leaving him there. Then the real gut punch hits. An assassin named Richter shows up to your gaff, kills your bird, and shoots you point blank. It's here that you start to kind of realise something. Those masked figures that you've been talking to the entire game, they're not real. Rasmus, Don Juan, and Richard, they've all been in your head the whole time. Fragments of your psyche trying to make sense of the shit that you've been doing. You break out the hospital and you track down Richter to the police station, and after a tense interrogation, he tells you that he doesn't know anything and the police probably know more than he does. From the files, you manage to get the location, and you storm their base. You wipe out the top brass, and you eventually kill the leader. It feels like the end, but it's not. This isn't the whole story, because here's the twist. You see the 50 Blessings organisation, the same people who were feeding you targets the entire game, they were also the ones who arranged for Richter to kill you and your girlfriend. They weren't just using you to take down the Mafia, you were just a pawn the whole time. Anyway, this is my hypothesis of it, because at the start of the game and other levels in the game, they leave their symbol on the targets that you're supposed to attack, and when you return back to your flat from the hospital, there's a symbol right outside your door. Hotline Miami didn't just leave a mark on players, it left one on the entire indie scene. It proved that a tiny team with a clear vision could stand toe to toe with big budget AAA releases. A game could be weird, fragmented, experimental, and still have a huge audience. You don't need cutting edge 3D graphics, celebrity voice actors, or even like a big kind of marketing budget. The only thing you needed was confidence in your style, something to say, and a good fucking soundtrack. The game was never trying to please everyone. I mean, it was banned in Australia. It was messy, brutal, and unapologetically kind of personal almost. And that's exactly why it connected with people the way it did. But maybe the biggest legacy is this. It showed creators that they could tell their own stories, no matter how dark, strange, or fucking weird that they are. And you know what? That might be the most violent thing that it ever did. I hope you've enjoyed this. I actually had to re-record it and rewrite it because I wasn't really too happy with the way it turned out. So apologies about the delay. If you enjoyed it, leave a like or drop a comment, as I'd love to hear what you thought about it in the comments below. So thanks for watching, take care, and I will see you guys later. Have a good one.